Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. Michael Kaufman is with us today, founder of the Newsletter Club, editor and founder of Catskill Crew. He's got a great deck prepared for you. My name is EJ White. I'm the head of growth here at beehiiv. We do these from time to time. If this is your first time joining us, thank you. We do 3 to 5 of these a week, covering various topics to get you up and running and successful with running your newsletter. Tony, if you will, he'll drop the link to our past webinars if you're interested in other topics like newsletter design and growth and deliverability. We have all of these recordings that are for your viewing enjoyment. This will be recorded. This will be sent to you. A link will be sent after the call with any of the resources that are mentioned by Mike and everything else. So don't worry if you have to step away. We will have the recording for you. We're also going to be leaving some time for Q&A at the end, but feel free to ask questions as you hear them as they come up. That'll allow us to have little breaks in the conversation and allow Mike to answer some questions as we go. We really just want it to be obviously part of the conversation, part of it's going to be a presentation, but we really want this to be a dynamic, engaging inter-exchange. With that being said, we are 4 minutes past. It's plenty of time. We've increased by 50% since I started speaking, up to 60 people so far. Incredible turnout today. This is great. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Mike to give his own introduction, anything that I missed, as well as kick off the presentation. Mike, take it away.
What's up, everyone? Great to be here. I got my Crocs on. I'm in sport mode. We're going to have some fun. We're going to keep this pretty high level, but we'll dive in. I'm going to be talking about creative monetization from how I've been using it and approaching it with a local newsletter. But what we're talking about is applicable to every single newsletter possible. And there's really no right way or wrong way to do it. So these are some fundamentals. And hopefully it gets the gears turning and the brain greasy, and you get some good ideas flowing. And obviously, if I don't get to everything today, feel free to reach out to me. DM's always open on X, and happy to chat with everyone. I think we're ready to rock. Let's do this thing. Again, we're just talking about creative monetization here. We'll talk about what that means, how you could apply it, how you could be thinking about these things. But let's talk about who the hell I am. I've been building startups for about 15 years, stumbled into my first venture in college. I built a beverage company. I learned a lot of hard lessons. I was really red-pilled about the idea of you can have an idea and make it a reality. And so I went on to build a couple beverage companies, build in digital health technology, HR, which was ridiculous. I've never had a full-time job. Shouldn't have an HR startup. But there's no failures. You learn along the way. I've consulted for Fortune 500 companies, which is super boring, pays half decent. But about a year and a half ago, I got stuck in a rut with capital raising, and I got really frustrated. I got sick of having ideas and being dependent upon outside capital to make it a reality. And so I was on a road trip. I got those fly rods back there. I went out west, and I was actually listening to, shout out Greg Eisenberg, talk about just the importance of community. And I was like, you know what? I still want to build, but I do think that's a fundamental switch. And so when you build community first, it really does supercharge what you're able to create, and it de-risks a lot of things. So I'd never built a newsletter before in my life. I started to think about what's important to me. What do I know? What do I care about? How do I be authentic to myself after being so burnt out and having to pitch all the time? And how do I just have fun? And those are some of my North Stars now, which we'll get into. And so I decided to start Catskill Crew, a local newsletter here in the Catskills. I was using another newsletter provider early on, and then I was like, man, this sucks, and switched over to beehiiv, and it's awesome. I'm a fanboy. And with Catskill Crew, it was really about don't chase perfection. Let that be a subtle breeze that moves you in the right direction over time. Bless you, EJ. That moves you in the right direction over time. You could easily experience paralysis analysis. So I encourage anyone, wherever you are in your journey, just get started, start figuring it out. You're your toughest kind of critic, which is a great thing. But for me, it started with figuring out what events are happening in the area. Social media has failed. The algorithms failed a lot of local businesses. And so I started recognizing, hey, I'm finding out about these events 2 weeks after they happen when I see them in my feed. But I'm not a huge fan of social media. Let's start aggregating. And then those content buckets from primary turned into secondary and tertiary. And it's become a larger publication, still written all by me. And I'm taking this playbook in local and testing it out. Again, it works for every single niche. And so I've started 1-800-FLY-FISH, slow rolling that thing. Got it up and running, but you got to plant seeds and then see where they take you. And through this journey, I started sharing publicly for the first time with my career, which is strange, but I've ended up launching the newsletter club, which is about 100 local newsletter creators. It's a paid community and it's a big family. We're all sharing tactics. We're all at different stages. Some people are just starting today. Some people are doing six figures. Some people have exited for seven figures, but it's just a way to level up together and learn from one another. Let us continue on. All right. So first off, I always think of like revenue as a pie, and everyone loves pie. Fill in the blank for what's inside of that. And, you know, a lot of people are just running one or two of these slices. And in my opinion, there's about 100 more slices that could fit in here. It is not about doing all of them at all. You may never touch some of these, but it's really about thinking bigger and running your newsletter like it is a business. And again, you might launch with one of these. You might launch with none of these. I went a long time without monetizing, and we'll get into why I ran my playbook like that. But long term, you're going to have more than one revenue stream, and that's a good thing, right? That gives you more opportunity to monetize and actually add value. So let me just click through here. Really, I see it as two buckets. Let's see. There's really two buckets. So traditional monetization is what I call it. These are the ads, the sponsors, the affiliate links, the premium. People are crushing it with this, right? And they have created fine-tuned machines that are just shipping out ads left and right, doing cold, warm, hot outreach, and they're filling all their ad slots, and then they're coming up with more cadences, more newsletters per week to increase that inventory and fill those spots. It's awesome. It's great to see. However, I never had an interest in doing that. I don't want to chase ads. I work with some advertisers here and there, but I say no to about 99% of the inbounds, and I do very little cold outreach unless I really love those folks. But I'm more about brand building and creating something that I see as premium. I always look at, if I was the subscriber, how would this make me feel being on the other end of this thing? There's nothing wrong with running traditional, but creative monetization, in my opinion, is the most bang for the buck. Last month, I did about $57,000 in revenue with a little under 20,000 subscribers. So that's without a single ad. When you do think about traditional monetization, one thing I want to mention is there's people who are doing it right, and there's people who are doing it really wrong, in my opinion. And what you're seeing there is they will take money from anyone. They do not care. They'll fit as many ads as they could possibly fit in there. It looks like a GeoCities website. They'll take money from Herbalife. They'll take money from the devil. It doesn't make a difference. And it has nothing to do with their brand reputation. And so if you are thinking about creative monetization as the future, really nurture that. Be careful with protecting that subscriber presence and how they feel about getting your email every week. You don't want to have a newsletter riddled with affiliate links. You don't want to be basically pushing and prodding every subscriber to upgrade every single week. And it's pretty lackluster rewards for paying up. They're going to be disappointed. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to cancel that. And they're probably never going to open your newsletter again. So no matter which way you go, be careful with how you execute this thing. So yeah, for me, it's always been about creative monetization. I build businesses. If I can build this distribution vehicle, what else can I create off of it? I have all the patience in the world. I have all the time in the world. And let's talk about time and patience, actually. I think there's really three fundamentals with creative monetization, in my opinion. And you can see those right there. So I think if you come out the gate on day one and you're slinging fistfuls of offers, and maybe you just dumped a ton of capital into meta ads and you've gone from 0 to 15,000 subscribers in 2 days, and you're like, all right, time to monetize this thing. Really doesn't matter if you're going traditional or if you're going creative. You have no reputation yet. So I think a lot of this comes down to understanding people have no idea who you are. They don't care how big you are. It's about building that trust, understanding who you are, what your voice is, what your brand is all about, what your content's all about, having the patience to get to know your audience. And once you really start to understand that, once you have your jam and jelly all figured out, now it's about being your authentic self. You don't want to be a newsletter focused on pediatricians dropping like a streetwear line. Maybe that'll crush. If someone's doing that, like, awesome, I want to hear about that. But try to be authentic. Try to have an idea that really resonates and stays true with that brand, with that voice, and everything along those lines. Don't try to force a round peg through a square hole. It's not going to feel right. Subscribers are quite intelligent, of course, and they're going to pick up on that extremely quickly. And then the final thing is get creative. Think outside the box, pay attention, listen. I think a lot of people are just, so many people have seen what I've done with the Catskillopoly board game, and they're just trying to thrust that into their community. Some people are going to crush that. Some people are going to do 6 figures, 7 figures off that. Others, it's going to fall flat on their face. Have the patience, be creative, be open to new ideas. And I think incredible things can happen. And it comes back again to patience. Don't be slinging ideas every single newsletter or asking for money. Jab, hook. I think that's a Gary V saying. I think there's a lot of truth to that. So, those three questions: do people trust me? Is there brand alignment? Would I want this? Those are where I always come back to before I launch something. I'm not following chat, so hopefully there's some activity happening there. The way I think of a newsletter is very much you have a competitive advantage to everyone else. You have a direct conduit to your subscribers who are your customers. That's insane. I don't think many people are using that to the full capabilities. So, what I always think of is like, first, start off by listening. Have a conversation with your subscribers, that ideally in person. If you get an email, respond, dig in, try to understand who they are, what they want, what they're all about, what they think of your brand slash newsletter. I try to respond to every single conversation that comes my way, respond to every single poll result that comes my way. It's a lot of work, but I think through that, you start really plotting these points, and those are very directional. And over time, they'll point you to where you're going. So screw bumping into rocks, build lighthouses. And in time, you'll start noticing clues for pain points. Those pain points are opportunities. Those opportunities are where you're going to make your money, where you're going to provide value. And we'll talk about exactly what kind of products I've built, what kind of services and experiences I built. But again, everyone's market is different. A local newsletter is radically different than a newsletter that's specifically focused on UI UX designers from Fortune 100 companies. Another part here is I find a significant force multiplier is give subscribers control. We've been operating in this world of, as a subscriber, you're just consuming content. I try to flip the script. You're not just consuming content, you're participating in my entire newsletter. So I'm running polls, people are voting on the direction where things go. I am fielding ideas. If you have an idea on what we should add to Catskill Crew, let me know. And then people feel like they have some ownership in the future of this thing. They don't feel like they're blindly consumers. They have a voice and they are participants. And then finally, test everything. Don't make any guesses. The beauty is, I don't do anything without running a poll or survey or pre-selling products, because you don't have to. With the Catskillopoly boards, it was sitting in Taos, New Mexico, and saw a Taosopoly board. It was terrible. It was all about businesses that I didn't know, didn't care about. And I was like, man, we could probably do this a little better. So I brought it to my subscribers. They voted for approval. It was like 96%, 97% approval. So I got to it. I had no idea what I was going to do. Experience is what you get after you need it. And I started ripping it. We ordered a couple samples, talked to a ton of manufacturers, found one that works great. And it sold out in 17 days or something like that. And it's incredible. And so everyone should be running it this way. Make sure you're listening, make sure they have a say, and make sure you're validating before you waste any time, money, and energy. You just simply don't have to. Cruising ahead here. So here are some examples of what I've built in the past, and I'll talk about how I've approached each one. So events was the first thing, I believe. And what I realized, we're an online community, but we're geographically located. And so it's kind of, man, we're all participating in these conversations, but we're hidden behind screens. Hey, ran a poll. Anyone interested in a happy hour? 99% approval. Great. Where are we thinking? Threw out a bunch of different counties, since I cover a very large geography. And it was in this specific county. I went to a business and I was like, look, but you've never worked with me. How about we do a ticketed event? I'll keep the money from the tickets, a welcome drink, discount on the hotel room. And I did about $1,000, $1,200 that day. You could see the ticket in the bottom right corner there. And the business, the win there was like validation that I could take these people from their inbox to meeting together in real life. People made friends, neighbors hung out, strangers made friends. The business we worked with did $7,000 over the bar on a Tuesday. It was a record-breaking night. They moved 12 hotel rooms. These are people who live locally, so it was like a staycation vibe. And the people that attended were business owners, and they saw what happened there. And they're like, hey, can we do one of these things? Crap, why not? Let's do it. And so since then, I've done everything from barbecues, foraging walks, brewery parties, clothing pop-up shops, holiday parties, you name it. And so the whole idea is like, this entire side of the business and revenue pie, now the way I do it is it's a marketing play. Like I come to the table, you just pay me a flat rate. I don't really touch tickets. However, there's flexibility there. If there's opportunities to do tickets and it's more monetizable and makes more sense for my business, I'll do it that way. But it's really about bringing people together in the real world. I've done art and art collaborations. Again, this is going from inbox to your walls now. So I did the Catskill Trout Trio, partnered with a local artist who's incredible. Fly fishing in the Catskills is everything, birthplace of American dry fly fishing. So those were actually scratch off pictures. I actually have some right here. Another thing to test out. And so you get these and then scratch them off. And it's just sold half decent. Nothing is a failure or success. You learn. I've done some other photography from my own 35 millimeter camera. It's okay. It sells half decent. I don't really promote it too often. Once every few months, I'll reping it. It's not my moneymaker. Great. I've learned that. Catskillopoly, as you guys all know now, that was a random idea. I had no idea where it could lead you, where it could lead me. And I think that's the whole idea of creative monetization. If you have the patience, you have the authenticity, you listen, you ask the right questions, you validate ideas, new ideas will be created, incredibly new revenue vehicles that spin out into a holding company will emerge. And so we ran 500 units, manufacturer in China. Unfortunately, there was none in the US I could find. MSRP $60. I was planning really just to sell them D2C. I moved I'd say about 300 of them within about 2 days directly through the newsletter, handwriting each box, hand folding each one, shipping it out, completely unscalable. But then businesses started reaching out. Hey, can we carry these? Okay, sure. I'll do wholesale. Then they sold out within a day. Holy crap. All right, we're on to something. And the beauty there is now they are promoting Catskill Crew. And again, we've gone from inbox into stores. We've gone from inbox into homes. And in my opinion, we'll get into kind of how I visualize or approach a personal holdco. But this is an entire kind of vehicle in and of itself, this arm, this tentacle that has now launched off of this platform that is a newsletter. Merch, look, if someone buys a hat with your logo of a newsletter on it, you've built a brand. Congratulations. Awesome job. Lean into that. And so I've done a bunch of merch from shirts, hats, hoodies. We have a new hat design that's coming about that's going to be designed through a competition. So that's, again, giving my community a voice. So they are going to design what it looks like. They're going to vote on their favorite. And then we'll launch it, share it with the world. Discount cards, might have one of those somewhere here. But the idea there was I was pretty early on. And what I recognized was I wasn't running meta ads until way late in the game. I spent 8 months or something grinding it out to 3,000 subscribers. So I focused on how do I make other businesses with larger followings look bigger? Rather, how do I partner with them because they're bigger than me? And how will they promote me? So make them look good. And so I partnered on this discount card. Again, I asked my audience, do you guys want this thing? Would that be cool? Vote got approved. All right, crap. What do you guys think we should price it at? They priced it, they approved it. And then I went out and I partnered with local businesses all over the place. And usually I have some of these laying around. Here's one. That cabinet's a mess. So discount card right there. Boom. Look, you might want to do this digitally. For me, I love the nostalgia factor. I've seen people launch these, they've fallen on their face. Let your community vote on it. Don't waste your time. So those are just some of the things that I've launched already. Moving on. So next, I see this again from the very beginning as a vehicle for personal holdco. I want to advertise what I own. It's always been that way. I work with some advertisers and go the traditional route. Hell yeah, of course. Why not? Especially if they reflect positively with my brand. But long term, I want to die holding and owning Catskill Crew, and I want to use it to advertise what I own. And so I'm always looking back to my subscribers, listening, giving them a voice, figuring out where I'm going to go. Constantly people are asking me, hey, where can we fly fish? Do you know any good guides? I invested in a fly shop. I've heard from every single business out there that when I promote their business, they have a record-breaking day. Hell, I should own one of those businesses that I'm promoting and driving traffic to. So I'm currently in the process with a couple partners to acquire 2 commercial real estate spots. We have a couple ideas for what's going to go in there. I can't really pull back the curtain too much right now, but a few of those businesses from the OpCo, not the PropCo standpoint, I will be part owner of. Again, that's another opportunity to move my products in there to promote that. You just never know where these things are going to go. Another thing I started figuring out was we are a community. There's only so much I can cover. There should be more than one, coming back to local newsletter. There should be more than one local newsletter in any given area. My voice is only going to resonate with so many people. I can only cover so many things. But how do I empower my community? Basically, go out and support one another. How do I start digging into and supporting each one of these niches and passions? And so I decided to launch crew clubs. And that was, again, another vote that passed. And now it's about bringing on leaders. And these leaders are going to run independent clubs that I am promoting: yoga, fly fishing, crafting, board game night, you name it. Things that might not be on my attention span, or my attention and radar, but it's going to come back to bringing me content, monetization vehicles for later on, and another defensive moat, because it's going to bring people together. It's going to associate Catskill Crew with community and fun and damn good times. Another thing I see all the time is people emailing me asking, what are the good Airbnbs? What are good hotels? Where I'm going to go with this at this point. Crap, I should buy some residential property and build something that's really on brand to the Catskill Crew vibe, and put an ad spot in there. If you want to rent it out, come grab it. Obviously, I'm going to come at it with a slightly more creative approach than a double wide trailer. We're going to make something really beautiful, really fun. And so I'm talking to some folks about building that out. Coming back to Monopoly, we know these things sell out like wildfire. Why stop at Monopoly? We're launching in R&D with my manufacturer for 3 other games. And again, this is not even revenue that's being created off of the newsletter. It was the validation that, through creative monetization, spins out into this whole new trajectory. And naturally, I have a background in CPG. So I'm looking at potentially a beer, potentially some sort of beverage or snack company, since I have the distribution again. And every time someone experiences one of these touch points, because I care so much about what I put my name behind, they associate that with quality. And that then is less of a factor of, do I trust this guy? Do I trust this brand? They associate it with good times. They associate it with a high quality product. Yeah, I think from a broader, so the question was pretty much, hey, dude, this is working for a local newsletter, but for something broader and more niche, I would love to hear what you're talking about building. The whole idea is every single newsletter has its own, every single niche, every single audience has its own opportunities for creative monetization. Now, when you go super broad, owners, like you're talking people who have dogs, cats, guinea pigs, yeah, that's a little bit more challenging. Does the guy who has a dog and the person that has a ferret want the same things? Probably not. So there is some strong value around niching down. You can use your newsletter to niche down as well. So you could use that as if you want to go more traditional business chat, like you can have your newsletter as top of the funnel. So we're going for all pet owners, millennial pet owners. Okay, now you can create these sub communities or sub newsletters and publications off of that, which they can subscribe to. So it's under the same brand, but you're launching a new newsletter for dogs and ferret owners. Does anyone have a ferret anymore? And off of each one of those, then you could start listening. Then you could start paying attention and figuring out, where are these opportunities? When you're going and your radar is spinning in all directions, yeah, it's overwhelming. It comes back to analysis paralysis. So try to fine tune your listening, try to give some segmentation through that audience.
One more follow-up question to that. One of the questions in the chat here was asking about how you use Beehiiv in this process. Do you use the polls feature when you're trying to figure out what your audience is into, or do you use a different tool?
God, I love these questions because there's just too much to tap into. So keep the questions coming, guys. I live and die by Beehiiv polls and surveys. For example, I use polls every single newsletter. There's different ways to use polls for validation, right? Like I use polls with trivia every single week, right? It increases your vanity metrics, but also it's fun. People are engaging, people are learning something. But I'm also using those polls for validation. Again, do you want a crew club? As an example, like yoga, fly fishing, fill in the blank. Do you want a Catskill version of the Monopoly board focused on reservoirs, rivers, fire towers, hiking trails, towns? No businesses on there. Holy crap. Yes, they do. Unbelievable. Now, without that poll, would I have gone out and spent, $10,000 and 2 months building out this board? Probably not. I probably would have sat around and been like, that's cool, but it's a big risk. I refused to take people's money early on. The quality was subpar, but I knew these were going to move because of the amount of inbounds. I did wait lists. So I had a poll that was, do you want to join the pre-sale wait list? That was an early indicator. So instead of taking people's money, it was the exclusivity of these are going to move super fast. If you don't join this list, you're not even going to have access to it. And I think there was about 400 people that joined that. So and I moved about 200 D2C, 200, 300 D2C. And so like great validation. Use polls, make them playful, make them fun. Don't use polls and just be like, how did I do this week? 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars. Early on, sure. As you are coming back to that patience and authenticity thing, I think those polls are great. Did you enjoy this? What else do you like? Did you like this primary content bucket, secondary content bucket, tertiary? Because again, those polls are very valuable because as you learn what your audience wants, you're able to provide more value. And as such, they're going to have a better association with you. They're going to provide you more input and feedback that you could then leverage as those lighthouses, as those North Stars to figure out what you could create in time. Again, I can't stress it enough. Be patient. If I subscribe to a newsletter and it's just hitting me with buying a product on day one, especially early on, I know they just launched, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So come back to what do you want? What would make you feel comfortable? What would make you trust in this? And then from a survey standpoint, I ran a survey this week for crew club leaders. If you're interested in being a crew club leader, fill out the survey. What's your name? Do you own a business? Are you interested in running one or multiple meetups? And in what niche and what hobby and what passion? I think you should be using these. You should figure out the right way to use them. And that fits in with your overall goals. Yeah. So the question was, if people are unengaged with your polls, how do you drive that engagement? And in my opinion, it's all about fun. It's all about coming back and giving them a voice. Now, for me, fun works. That is my North Star. For other people that, again, HR experts or something like that, fun probably doesn't resonate as much, but it can. And in my opinion, it should. Everything should be fun. People want fun. You could definitely use, you could definitely use extrinsic motivators. I think intrinsic works a lot better long term, but extrinsic motivators work, right? Like you could give a discount card. I've done polls. I've done a survey at 10K, which was fill out the survey and you're entered to win my 10K giveaway. It was a hat, it was a crew card, it was a bunch of different merch, it was a discount card. But understand, if you're in a situation where you have to pay someone to give you feedback, you haven't built a real community yet. And so you really want to figure out ways to nurture that is, guess what, broken record, authentic to your brand. So come back to being patient, come back to nurturing this community, come back to giving them a voice, come back to showing them that you actually give a crap who they are and that you care about them as a subscriber. If you are getting inbounds all day and you don't respond to a single one, like that's going to multiply every single time. If you have the patience, just go, hey guys, heard that. Awesome. Thanks for the feedback. Appreciate every single one of you. That's where you're going to really start building those bonds and that glue that will continue to move you forward. If you have the long-term plan of, I'm not trying to chase a quick buck, then in my opinion, this is the playbook you should be looking for. If you're looking for a quick buck, I can't really help you on that front. Should I keep ripping on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're almost at the end, guys, and we'll hammer me with more questions and I'll try to add as much value as possible. The way I see this again is launch. Just start. Your newsletter is going to totally suck at first. I wish you could all see what mine looked like early on. It was the only thing that has remained the same is the font that I wrote Catskill Crew in. That is the only thing that has remained the same. The logo, the voice, the platform I use, everything has changed. But foundationally, it has been about launching this thing, getting off Go, Monopoly reference, and starting to figure out what you're all about, what your community is about, starting to learn how to send a newsletter, starting to figure out what cadence works for you. Then having that patience we discussed, that authenticity to know, hey, this actually resonates with what this brand is. Then you need to get creative. It's in the name, creative monetization. Go out, steal ideas from other people. There's nothing wrong with that, or borrow, but especially if you're local, like steal. It doesn't make a difference if someone here is trying to do a Monopoly board in San Antonio, Texas. Hit me up. I'm happy to help you out. I'm not going to give you my manufacturer because my lead times are already getting annihilated, but I shared it with too many people. I'm now 5 months out till I'll get my next units. But you have to be creative. just look around, start figuring out what you could do, what's on brand for yourself. And again, have the patience like, I'm going to have this thing for 10 years. I can do anything. Listen to what people are saying, grow IRL events, talk to folks. What do they see? What do they feel when they get your newsletter? What do they experience? And then validate every single idea. And then I guess we came back to launch. It was under caffeinated and then launch those products. Again, this is your validation engine and launching pad, and just keep letting it rip over and over again and have the patience. And that's pretty much it. Think outside the freaking box, guys. And again, coming back to that pie, this should be a part of those pieces. This has done me $57,000 in revenue last month on a small newsletter in the middle of the woods. Give me a city. I'll do $250,000. Like, you guys are probably in a more populated area than me. If you have a niche, if it's a sport, if it's dog owners, you guys are leagues ahead of what is capable compared to a local newsletter.
Amazing. That was incredible. That was like one of the most value dense sessions we've ever had, as I thought it might be, having a little bit of a preview of that deck. Super excited to get into some Q&A. I have some that Tony, I think there's a few here and maybe some that you already answered, but we'll just go through. So just from the very top, talking about the events that you throw, the question is, how does Michael exercise any control over the events if he's leaving it mostly to the business and just taking a flat rate? Yeah, I'll let you take that.
Yeah, so for me, again, I'm really trying to build a brand. So it's a good question. There are events I've said no to where I'm like, that just doesn't fit what I'm after. That is a pure influencer Instagram or influencer type of vibes where there's angel wings in the background and everyone's taking a photo. I'm not into that. There's events I say no to, just the same way I say no to advertisers. It's all about, does this reflect positively? Does this align with the authenticity? I really do to be a partner in the conversations with collaborative events. So usually it's $2,500 to $5,000 for an event. We're sitting down, we're talking about, what are the goals? When do we want to do this? What do you think the subscribers would like and care about? But also, how does that reflect and fit into the partner I'm working with? Is this a free event? Is this a ticketed event? What time? What day? Are we targeting locals, weekenders, vacationers? And yeah, you need to be careful. You need to say no. If you say yes to every single opportunity, in my opinion, you haven't figured out what you're all about. But yeah, there's situations simply can't work.
No, I love that. That's a really solid answer. I think this is a good question. This might be a little bit specific, but I think there's a way that you can probably tie this to like kind of broader businesses. But the question is, lots of people go up to the Catskills in the summer. How do you incorporate that population into your audience? So how do you address that? So a broader question might be, how do you incorporate like a seasonal audience, or how do you account for that degree of seasonality or demographic shifts, or even finding that audience that might not be there the year round?
Yeah. So from day one, when I started Catskill Crew, I knew the most important thing as a local that I had to appeal to locals. Then it was about weekenders, the folks who live in New York City, Jersey, who have a place up here. They come up every weekend, every few weekends. And then knowing that there is a high tourist population that comes in pretty much outside of April, which is what we call mud season. It's the best time of year. The road is quiet. You don't get stuck behind slow people. And so it was first and foremost, how do I make sure that my voice in this content and this brand is attractive to those locals? And luckily, it is me. Everything from Catskill Crew is just me. It's my voice. It's what I care about. But I think where this goes is Catskill Crew is like a newspaper, right? There's content in there that is those primary buckets like events. There's secondary content buckets like the history of the Catskills, covering the history of tanning and tan bark and hemlock trees and bluestone quarries. There's the night sky. What's going on in the night sky tonight? There's playful trivia. There's all these different things. And so some subscribers are coming in, they're going right to the business section. Other people are going to the sports section. Some people are reading every single word I write. Now, when you zoom out and you say, hell, this population that comes up for vacationing, look, there's a whole other opportunity from a creative monetization holdco play, right? That's where the Airbnbs come in. That's where some of these brick and mortar plays come in. They're buying tons of Monopoly boards. There is an experience in content play where I could sell these pre-created packages to experience the Catskills. Come on up, Here's a stay at this Airbnb, this hotel. It's great. Here's a discount card for these businesses, which is basically like your guide map of the best places in the Catskills, a brewery, a restaurant. And here is a package to go fly fishing. You're going to meet here on this river. You're going to go in this drift boat, and then you're going to go on this hiking path. And so you can get this for X amount of dollars. There's ways that you could start curating your voice, your content, your products, your services for these different audiences. Again, starting to segment in, listening, paying attention. Hope I answered that question.
Yes, and then some. Incredible. Cool. This is interesting. Do you use any outside data or like outside tools to bring data into beehiiv that help you grow your audiences? Is it just purely traditional newsletter means? Or do you have any growth hacks that you use?
Again, I started on day one. If I can't grow this thing organically, I can't grow it at all. And I need to validate it without paying. And also, it's a little nerve wracking to start pulling the trigger on ads when you have no money coming in. It doesn't matter if you're a multi-billionaire. If you're looking at this thing from a business standpoint, do people care about the content to begin with? Can they find you? And so, I pretty much I launched October 2023. I didn't get serious until January 2024 when I started really hearing conversations with people in public of like, dude, I love that newsletter. That's awesome. And I was like, really? All right, cool. We're going to lean into this thing. And then how do we add more content and have more fun with it? And it wasn't until pretty much September, October of 2024 that I started spending money on ads. And it went from 4,000 to I'm a little over 18,000 subscribers now. I'm very patient with that. Record-breaking month last month, I haven't increased my ad spend. Like I am all about it is quality, not quantity for me. Again, I have all the time in the world. It's not really going to make much of a difference. I think, especially if you're in the traditional monetization buckets, like that quantity play is so important. Those vanity metrics, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but those are the optics that a business sees from the outside. And okay, you're legitimate. That's extremely important. From a growth standpoint, short answer, meta ads, it works wonders. But from an organic standpoint, you could definitely grow, find subreddits that are very specific. Go in there, post content. Don't start speckling people to go sign up. Offer free value. Say, hey, PS, this is a little bit of the stuff, but if you want it for free, there's a newsletter I write right to your inbox, totally free. Find Facebook groups. If you are a local newsletter, for example, what I did was I just spent a little time on Canva designing a template. Again, how do I ride the coattails of these businesses that are larger, make them look better, make them look good, highlight them, share their story? And so I would just design this beautiful template, put in some events that they're throwing and tag the business, and they would reshare it and I would get subscribers. I don't really do that anymore because I hate social media, but it works, especially early on. And I know I'm leaving massive opportunity on the table because of how I'm not leveraging some of these tools. But lean into your strengths, lean into your weaknesses, lean into your strengths and outsource your weaknesses.
Makes a ton of sense. On that note, what would you say your split between organic growth and paid growth is right now?
Oh, I'd say I'm almost like 80% paid. I'm only spending like $60 a day. It's nothing overall. At first it was $20 or $10, and I just slowly up it. Your CAC fluctuates all the time. I've gotten as low as 8 cents. I just checked one of my ads was like $3.50. So it takes some fine tuning. You got to pay attention. It's going to change. You got to A/B test all the time, run multiple ads, be playful with it, and understand it's an algorithm. It's a black box. You're not sure what the Zuck master's doing in there, but it is the most effective growth mechanism, in my opinion, that I have experienced. However, these monopoly boards being out there, unbelievable organic driver. You post on a subreddit in the Catskills, you'll get a couple, maybe 100 subscribers with that post. People are sharing this. People are tagging the monopoly board on Instagram. People are tagging me when they come to an event. So all of these things do trickle in. The challenge here is they're hard to measure, but they're all kind of factors. I guess you got a revenue pie and you got a growth pie.
Makes sense. What are the kind of KPIs that you really look at on a daily basis? Like you have a dashboard with like maybe 5 numbers. What are the things that you care about?
Yeah, I'm so not this guy. I check my subscriber rate religiously, especially before it got to 10K. It's just like, man, I want those 5 digits. That's really cool. Now it's really just about people are going to unsubscribe, whatever. I think early on that hurt. Every unsubscribe was like a personal attack. Someone on the other side giving me the middle finger. Nah, just like they move. People don't care. People got other things going on, whatever. From a metric standpoint, it's my CAC. That's what I care the most about and what my open rate is. Am I delivering something of value? The click-through rate is questionable. It depends on what you're trying to measure. I think a lot of people just want a high click through rate to get a high click through rate to leverage that into selling ads. But if you're able to drive value up front and you're not trying to monetize traditionally, then what does your click through rate matter? I think that's again a jab hook. Everyone's business is different. One of the other click through rate for me was very important of getting people to my Shopify. What is my conversion rate on Shopify for the monopoly boards, which influences what is my price? How does that feel? Is it just curiosity? Unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer here outside of open rate is really important, deliverability rate is very important, unsubscribe rate is just interesting to me, and CAC determines my growth.
That's perfect. I love that. Let's see what is next. You have generated more questions, and not in a bad way where people are misunderstanding. You've generated way more engagement in this way than I think we've had with any other. This is incredible. So it's more, how can I grab the new ones with the limited time we have left?
I'll try to rapid fire. I'll go faster answers.
For sure. But these are great nonetheless. How local do you need to be? Can it be as broad as a whole state, or should you be as local as like a neighborhood? What are your opinions on that?
I think you want to find that balance where, again, you don't want to be millennial pet owners, and you don't want to actually probably millennial ferret pet owners is the worst thing in the world. I think that's my next newsletter, dude. I think it comes down to state's going to be really hard. But if it's a small state, great. If it's California and Texas, I think you're in for some challenges just purely on growth. You don't want to be a tiny town because your monetization is going to be limited. Your subscriber base is going to be limited. But hey, if you're passionate about it, you'll figure out ways to do it. For me, it wasn't about the counties. It was about the region. I bleed outside of the Catskills region because people can travel outside of the Catskills region. They do. So find that geography that fits, that is tight enough, but large enough for you to have opportunities for growth and monetization, regardless of which bucket you pursue, or ideally both buckets.
Incredible. Do you have any tips for service-based industries? So this is someone who owns a travel agency and they've had their newsletter for a little while. How would you, if they're trying to do local newsletter around that?
I think from a travel agency, like there's a couple, all right, riffing. If you're a travel agency and you're specifically focused on getting people to Italy, sell the lifestyle, sell the content. People are going to travel there once a year, once every 5 years. So you really got to have compelling content that's not just like the same crap recycled over and over again. If you're a travel agency, or let's just say you're in the Catskills running a travel agency, then it's about highlighting the culture, highlighting the stories. It still comes down to you need content that's worthy of opening up. And then you are trying to monetize, whether it's merch that's limited edition, whether that is pre-created packages. Ask what the folks want. What kind of packages are they looking for? Are they looking for a culinary package to experience the best of the Catskills or Italy or something like that? Great. Now you could start curating that. You could start negotiating deals where it's like, this is what you get. We have the whole travel set up. You go to these 3 restaurants, and here's a bunch of content about the chef in these restaurants and the story of how they see the food, and curate the menu and whatever it may be. If you're a service-based business and you're a travel agency and you have a newsletter focused on travel agencies, have some really compelling stuff. Understand those folks' problems. I have no idea. Happy to chat with that person offline. DM me and we can dig into like where those opportunities are, but they're infinite.
Amazing. Let's see. When would you say is the right, we get this all the time, so this will be super valuable. When do you think the right time to start trying to monetize is?
When you know what you're all about, when you know you have content that works. I think I took $100 from my barber when I had 300 subscribers. And I was like, what do you feel about $100? And she was like, cool, in. Look, CPCs, CPMs, especially as you get niche, like apply a multiplier to them. There's more value than a traditional. I run the newsletter club. There's 100 of us in there. None of us are operating off CPMs and CPCs because it's just inherently different. Have a conversation, figure out what works for these advertisers. And I'm talking about traditional monetization now. Go to them. Say, hey, do you want to do a $100 ad? No, you don't have that money. You know what? I'm going to give you a $100 ad on the house. Get to leverage that data, show them the data, how effective it was. And guess what? A bunch of subscribers are business owners too. And they go, holy crap, Catskill Crew is advertising now. Man, we should probably advertise in here. You look bigger than you are. Not everyone knows what's happening behind the curtain. And again, you have a case study that you could then leverage later on. When you have a product and your customers understand, subscribers understand that they have a voice here and they have trust, then you could start saying, hey, are you guys interested in this thing? Like, I have this crazy idea. Are you interested in XYZ? Yeah? Holy crap. All right, we're going to let this thing rip. We're going to have some fun. And if they say no, guess what? don't just slip that under the rug. Be like, heard you loud and clear. We'll never talk about it again. Appreciate you all. Make sure let's build together.
Incredible. I'm sure that's going to be so useful for so many people. There's somebody here who is not a fan of social media. It looks like
Me too.
They're only using X right now. I have some thoughts around this. The question is, which other social media, platforms do you find most helpful for growth? Like, my advice is typically like, it doesn't really matter which ones you find helpful for growth. It matters which ones your customers are spending their time on. And so if your users are not on X, you're not going to have a good time trying to grow using X. If they're all on TikTok and you're on X, you're going to be missing out on them. Most of the time when we do like our kind of like more workshop-based webinars, we really start with this kind of foundational module where we're like, foundations, like pick your niche, know your audience. Like those are like the two things. You really need product market fit or content market fit before you really start to grow, which is something you mentioned in a slightly different way a second ago. But in terms of like social media, you really have to just go where your customers are. Do you have any other advice aside from that?
No, it's a necessary evil. Look, I have an Instagram account. I don't have a single photo on my account. I'm not a huge fan of social media. The reason I'm not, the inherent disdain I have for social media was the reason why I started a newsletter. However, you have to play that game to some degree, right? I know I'm leaving opportunity on the table. I just had a business reach out right before I got on here that basically invited me to a dinner party if I post some content for them. It's like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that guy holding the phone as my burger comes out, getting 12 angles and telling everyone to step out of my light. And however, there's ways to do it authentically. Hey, buddy, no, dad's on a call. Authentically to your brand and to your passions and your cares and how you operate on social media. Look, if you want to grow, find where your subscribers are. Simple as that. It doesn't have to be social media. If it's like some niche, go attend that event and just sling cards everywhere. Figure out how to get in front of your potential subscribers.
Incredible. I think we're getting right up to the end. Let's see, we'll do one or two more. Are you out? You talked a little bit. One of the most fascinating parts about this, you talked about a lot about your kind of holding company and a little bit more about the business structure of how you set these things up, which is a little bit like unique compared to haven't heard that mentioned a lot from our guests before, but it's a great strategy. Certainly, it's a little bit more advanced. Are you outsourcing anything now around the business? What sort of things do you do personally versus outsource? And even if you don't outsource them, maybe there's things that you're like, oh man, this takes way more time than it should, and might be worth outsourcing very soon. How do you balance that? You seem like a DIY type guy.
Yeah, I like it all overall. Like is probably the wrong term. I think I went a long time. The only thing I outsource now is I have 2 VAs who help me with the event. That was a grind. And I probably overpay them, but they do a half decent job and save me probably 10 hours a week and more time off of social media, right? That's where all these events were. It was going on all the businesses' websites. Yes, a bunch of events get submitted now through a Google form, but I went 8 months or something like that, grinding it out every week, 10 hours, week over week. And I found it very important because I got to know the businesses. What do they put on? Do these events align with what Catskill Crew is? So now they just go in to beehiiv as contributors. They pop in all the events and I just go in and then I curate. I also got a bookkeeper starting because I can't keep up now, which is a good problem to have. But for the most part, I really do love being hands-on.
Nice. I was going to ask about the bookkeeping part because you started to shake your head a little bit when you say you do everything. But I found, so one thing, you talk to a lot of business owners, even if they are crazy enough to have an interest in like doing it themselves, it tends to be the first thing that they want to outsource.
Yeah, there's ways to optimize, right? And I'm not educated on that. So I grinded it out dirty and then it's like, all right, let's get QuickBooks going. All right, there's money coming in, quarterly sales tax. I don't know. I'm probably doing this wrong every time. Let's just hire someone who's an expert because what that allows me to do is focus on the creative, the fun, and it's very freeing in my opinion. I know some people are just like, I don't want to spend that money. It's like, if it's going to give you some freedom, test it out for a month, test it out for 3 months. Say, I'm going to test it out for a quarter and see how it goes. I know it's going to unlock a lot of potential for me.
Amazing. Cool. Last question we'll cover. What would be like the one thing you would say to a user if they're like starting out from like a 0, for example, the one thing to get them from 0 to 1,000 or 0 to 100, just like the first thing getting started, what is your advice on any of the folks who are just starting out to keep them sticking with it?
Yeah. Figure out what you give a shit about because you're not going to stick with anything if you don't care. It's just a reality. Figure out what you actually care about. It's all going to be work. It's all going to be hard. It's going to be fun too. But make sure you care. It doesn't even have to be that you have this authentic voice. You may have no voice. You may have never written a word in your life. Hey, buddy, I'm in closing moments. Then start. Get on Beehiiv. Start putting out content. Make your friend, your mom, subscribe first. My mom was my first subscriber. No one else was a receiver. Then I just started sharing it, tagging businesses, figure out how to then grow it. Figure out to validate, do people actually like the content you're creating? Don't pay for subscribers early on. There's nothing wrong with that. But do people actually stick around? You don't have to pay for subscribers early on. Figure out if people care what you have to say. Then just start grinding out. Give your subscribers a voice. Ask them questions. Did they like this? What else do they want to see? It will help fine tune your vehicle, your content, your approach, your voice. Protect that brand at all costs, in my opinion. Your brand is also your newsletter. Make sure that people start associating that with quality, that you care. Once you start figuring out what this is all about, what you're about, what your content's about, and what your subscribers care for, then open up that notebook where you've been writing all these ideas down and figure out which one you could deliver on to the highest ability. I had no idea I could do a Monopoly board, but I was like, I could probably figure it out. And I have trust I could figure it out. Ask them what they want. Have conversations with these people and just keep showing up every single cadence. Do not, the biggest thing I'll say actually is, do not say you're doing a daily newsletter and you haven't sent a newsletter. Start with once a week. Just start with once a week. The reason why so many people launch multiple cadences is because they've run out of inventory room. And so they just need more ad space. And that's my advice. Just stick with it. Increase cadence if you need to. I've been running Tuesdays since day one, and I'm not changing that. Actually, it was Monday. Now I'm Tuesday.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time today. I want to give you, just like everybody who's watching still, like, please give him a round of applause. This was incredible. Thank you so much on behalf of the Beehiiv team. It's great to have your trust and to have you be part of this community. So thank you. I also want to give a quick thanks to Tony, who's been emceeing, or kind of the eyes in the sky up top. Thank you so much, Tony. You're amazing. And then everybody who showed up today, the 100 or so people, maybe even more, who have come and gone. Thank you so much. You are what makes this all worthwhile. We wouldn't have Michael here. We wouldn't be talking here if you guys weren't showing up to these and getting real value from it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll have this produced, and all the ums and ahs and some of my, just anything that needs to be cut down, we'll have that edited down and out to you for recording in the next week or so. It takes a couple days typically. But in the meantime, let us know. Find us on social. I'm EJ_Beehiiv on X, Edward White on LinkedIn, EJ@beehiiv.com. Happy to answer any questions. If this was super useful, we do recommend joining the, which is our paid Slack community. Michael, are you part of the Hive?
I don't think so. Get me in there. I'm in.
Yeah, we'll add you. It's a perk of all of the paid plans. Every user who's on one of our paid plans gets access to our paid only community. These are 3,500 plus active paying customer active publishing Beehiiv publishers. It's about a little more than a third of our entire paying user base is a part of this community. There's 20 channels, hundreds of messages every week, if not every day. It's one of the most information dense places. So if asking some of these questions, getting some of these questions answered was super useful, you don't have to wait for these webinars to get those answered. The Hive is there, and there's people all around the world ready to answer those questions for you pretty much any time of day. So if you are a paid user and you haven't gotten access like Michael, we can send you a link and you'll just click a button. It'll verify your account. If you, for some reason, maybe your Slack account is different than your Beehiiv account, reach out to us and our community manager will get you in. Anyway, with that said, thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. We look forward to seeing what you build. We look forward to seeing your newsletter be the next huge thing, and have you guys come join us on these webinars and share your success stories with the world. Thank you, Michael. Have a great day.